You guys are fine with a sequel, right? Little part two. Let's take a trip down memory lane together to December of last year, so like 2 months ago, where I uploaded this video where I detailed the last 3 years, or I guess 4 now, of the career of the rapper Mike. One of the best and most consistent rappers in the game right now. He had released 3 heavy-hitting albums that I wanted to highlight in that video, and I feel like I did successfully. And that video became the second most viewed video on my channel, which is crazy. But one thing I highlighted in that video was Mike's release schedule, and if you are not aware, Mike has released an album every single year for the past 3 or 4 years, I believe. And because of that, and if you've been following Mike at all recently, that means a lot has happened since I left you guys with that video. We have received multiple singles, a brand new album, and a mixtape since December of last year, so in 2 months. And today, in this video, we're gonna pick up right where we left off. We're gonna talk about the lead up, the release, and the actual project that is Showbiz by Mike. His brand new album dedicated to his mother that had such an artistic and awesome release that I have to highlight it. There's so many cool things that went down leading to the release of this album that just proves why Mike is one of the best in the game. So if that sounds interesting to you, get whatever you need, snacks, drinks. You're probably watching this while you're eating. My name is Henry, I love music, this is where I talk about it, and today we are going to talk about Showbiz by Mike. So without further ado, let's get it. The whole release timeline for Showbiz started on October 18th, and another thing about Mike that you may not be aware of is he doesn't really tease the release of any singles that he drops. You'll just kind of log into Spotify or wherever you listen to your music, and there will be there'll be a new Mike single. And that is exactly what happened on the 18th of October, where he released the song Pieces of a Dream. He released the song with this absolutely fire album cover. It's like a painting of an Instagram story, and it's so good. And he released it alongside a music video on YouTube. And part of what makes Mike so cool is that all the music videos he releases for an album usually coincide with each other or have like the same kind of style. For Burning Desire, it was a lot of like Mike out in the wild, recorded on like vintage cameras or camcorders, whatever. For Pinball, it was kind of like early 2000s music videos-esque. And he sets the tone up pretty well in this music video where he's walking behind a green screen that is transporting him to all of these different worlds while he raps on this song. The song is about 2.5 minutes long, and it sees the return of DJ Black Power. If you don't know, DJ Black Power is Mike's producer alter ego, and pretty much all of Mike's albums are self-produced or in collaboration with himself and other producers. But the album we saw from Mike last year, Pinball, was in collaboration with a producer named Tony Seltzer, so he didn't have much production influence on that album at all. It's really nice to see the return of DJ Black Power, and you can tell that he's staying true to his style with this very sample-heavy production. Mike really likes to loop certain parts of samples and like fluctuate the pitch a little bit to make it sound almost like the beat is from another world, if that makes any sense. So it was very nice to see that back with the same consistent flow that Mike always gives us. But as of that day, we didn't really know what was going on. All we got was the single and the music video. There was no other information released to us. Until literally 3 days later, where he announced the Artist of the Century tour in collaboration with him, a few other artists on his labels, and just like a bunch of people. It is a 71 show tour across so many different countries. If you don't pay too much attention to Mike, he is one of the very few artists who is pretty much always on tour. I feel like at least for the past 3 years, Mike has always been on tour, at least for part of the year. In 2023, he was touring with Earl Sweatshirt and The Alchemist for their Voir Dire tour, and I know that because I saw him. In 2024, he toured for the album Pinball, and I unfortunately could not go to that show. I was so upset. But it seems like he took only a little bit of time off, because in less than a year, he's already back on tour. The poster for the tour announcement was in the same style as the cover of Pieces of a Dream, so it was very obvious that these were not only connected, but that something bigger was coming in the future. After that, Mike was pretty quiet for about a month until November 29th, where he released the track You're the Only One Watching, along with a music video, and yes, the album announcement. The album cover featured a picture of his mother, and it was very obvious that this track was made to pay homage to her, where it talks about how his mother is always watching over him. It's a very sweet track. This music video was in the same style of the Pieces of a Dream music video, where he was in front of the green screen, except this time he was on a bike. The track also ended with a mural recreation of the album cover with the words, "You're the only one watching." It's very sweet when you think about it. And then in the YouTube description of this video, he announced Showbiz, slated for release on January 31st, 2025. So roughly 2 months after the video had released. Now this next part of the, I guess, rollout, you could call it, is something you wouldn't be aware of unless you were subscribed to his YouTube channel or followed him on Twitter. If I remember correctly, the only promo he put out about this next thing I'm going to talk about was either on Twitter. He might have posted it on his Instagram story, but I can't remember. But on December 21st, he released a music video for a track called Belly One. Like I said, the only promo I can remember him doing of it is on Twitter, but there was no Spotify or any streaming release of this track as of yet. Which made it super cool because in my opinion, this was my favorite of the singles that had been released, and it was almost like a secret Easter egg. Just like the first 2 tracks, this was produced by DJ Black Power, and the track started out as this kind of like ambient lo-fi track a little bit, and then in the middle it switches to something a little more upbeat, and I think it's so good. But there were no other announcements made at that time. Like I said, it was almost like an Easter egg. And then again, Mike went quiet for about a month until the release of Bear Trap, the final single of this album, on January 16th. Now this was one of the more mainstream releases. We got a streaming release along with the music video. And again, this track really showcased the sample-heavy production of DJ Black Power. And I think it really highlighted what he's known for and what everyone really loves that style of production for. And again, the video confirmed that Showbiz would be releasing on January 31st. Okay, so now you're thinking he went quiet, the album released, and now he's just on tour, basking in the glory of the album. But no, not quite. There's still one more thing that happened before the album release, and it's honestly my favorite thing to come out of the rollout. Now, I wish I could remember the exact day that this happened. I believe it was either like the day before the album released or the night that it released. But at some point, like right before the album released, Mike posted a link on his Instagram story to a website called lostscribe.com. And what was on this website was something so creative and so cool that I was on the website for so long. It was crazy. Lostscribe.com featured sort of like a scrapbook visualizer for the entire Showbiz album. It featured original notes for the album, pictures of Mike with his mother, just random pictures that inspired the album, whether it was scenery from other places or just like memes online. But it was this huge compilation of art that inspired this album in this like auto-scrolling website that not only had all that art, but it had the actual album playing behind it. So while you were on this website, it would just continuously scroll down, playing each song as it went down. And then while you're actually hearing the music, you can see the art and the notes and stuff that inspired that song. And it is so cool. Something I've been thinking about recently, and something I mentioned to some of my friends, is how the art of like visual media in music is sort of deteriorating, if that makes sense. Like for the most part, music videos are nowhere near the quality that they used to be back then, if the artists even make music videos anymore. And now the mainstream music videos are like, they're just not as good. But even past music videos, things like visualizers, physical media, all this stuff that we still relate to music that isn't the actual music we're listening to, is so important to the experience. And while it definitely is a lost art and a lot of artists are getting by without it, it's so awesome to see an artist that is taking full advantage of this other sense that we have when we experience music and putting it to its full effect here. That and like Mike's CDs are always so cool. Have you seen them? After that link was posted, he had a pre-release party for the album, dropped one more music video, or actually a double music video, for the songs Man in the Mirror and Artist of the Century. And then finally, Showbiz was released. The album was 24 tracks long, spanning just about 47 minutes. And the cover of the album featured artwork of his mother and his aunt, I believe. I could be getting that totally wrong. I apologize if I am. Made by the artist T-Zoom on Instagram. And I also could be saying that very wrong. I'm sorry. They are a super sick artist though. I was looking through their page in preparation of making this video. Their artwork is so sick. Showbiz was an entirely self-produced album in collaboration with some other producers, but mainly it was DJ Black Power, with features from 454, Venna, and Surf Gang, which is awesome. If you don't know, Surf Gang is like a record label music group kind of thing. And I've never paid super close attention to them, but I've always really admired their work. And when I was listening to the album for the first time, I got to Belly One, which is the song they're featured on, saw the feature listing, and it was just so cool to me. I had no idea that they knew who each other were. Mike raps on the album about what he raps about best, which is very introspective, like very hard questions about himself, about the world, and everything else around him. If you've paid attention to Mike, you also know that he's a very big human rights advocate for different things going on around the world. And he makes that very clear, just in his own personal image as well, but also on songs like You're the Only One Watching. And I think that's always been one of the things I've admired about him, and one of the things that makes his album so like spiritual and introspective. He is seeing everything going on in this world, just like we are, but he is asking why people can't view these situations with the same respect and love for other people, like not only he does, but other people do. Again, it's something I always found super admirable about Mike. He makes it very clear in all of his concerts, his albums, his shows, that this is something that he stands for. And just like in You're the Only One Watching, he knows this is what his mother would have wanted, which is so awesome. Mike always manages to make one of my favorite, if not my favorite, albums of the year each time he releases, and this album is no different. It's such a beautiful compilation of soul-inspired, angelic, sample-heavy beats that almost, like I said earlier, feel like they're transporting you to another dimension. Just in case you're wondering, I am going to his show in Fort Worth this year. I am not missing this thing. Mike, you as an artist have all of my respect. And you've created art that not only is going to stand the test of time, but art that people will look back on and realize how inspiring the people of this generation were. Showbiz is the perfect encapsulation of that.
Here comes a new challenger!
Y'all thought that was it? I told you earlier we had a mixtape to cover. Alongside the release of this album, we got the Dr. Grabba 2 mixtape from DJ Black Power. If you haven't listened to any of DJ Black Power's solo projects, they're still very true to what you hear on Mike's albums, but they're a lot more like house inspired. You still get those old soul samples, but they have a lot more like rhythm to them, a lot more hype, a lot more beat. And Dr. Grabba 2 was a really cool compilation of all of these house beats that he had made. Now if you haven't listened to it, I'm sure you're hearing me say, Dr. Grabba 2, that must mean there's a Dr. Grabba 1, right? And there is. It was a mixtape of the same kind of variety that he released alongside the album Burning Desire. And how would I know that? Cause I got the CD for it right here, baby. Mike included the Dr. Grabba 1 CD in the special edition of the Burning Desire CD, and he's doing the same thing with the special release of the Showbiz CD. So if you want to get a chance to get the complete version of that, go buy the Showbiz CD, because this Burning Desire one sold out quick. But yeah, that just about covers it. Mike is currently on tour right now. I think he just played his first show in Dublin as of me recording this video. And he's on a roll, just like he has been for the last few years. He's the most consistent, one of the most inspiring people in music that I've seen ever. And I am just so happy that I get that I get to listen to this. And it's so awesome that he puts this much thought and effort into his work. Mike, if you see this, you're amazing. Thank you for everything you do. See you in Fort Worth. But yeah, that's gonna do it for now. If you enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe. It's free. You can change your mind later, but please don't change your mind. Next week, I'm gonna put out another small artist reaction video. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, comment on this video or any of my other videos what artists you would like to see. And yeah, I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye.